Well, I can tell you what I'm not called to do, and that is to be a pastor and public speak. Because I'm terrified. So as long as you just bear with me, I may do a lot of ums or Just give me a second to catch my thoughts. Okay, so my name is Megan, and let's just open in prayer real quick. Okay. Father, I just thank you that you have called me to be the hands and the feet for you. But today you have called me to be your voice. So everything that you have downloaded into me, Lord Jesus, please let me deliver it as you see it. In Jesus' name, amen. Okay, so the week before I was to speak, I was told maybe a couple months ago. And so for the couple months, I'm going, okay, we need to kind of focus on this. It's time for us to start talking this out. And I'd get little things, but nothing was ever really like, oh, we're going to stay up all night or anything. And finally, last weekend, I was like, okay, we got to get serious, buddy. Like, I have 1 week, and I really don't want to look like I don't know what I'm talking about, right? And so I feel like he does it on purpose because he makes me do things that I don't normally do. So for this week, I went on a fast. I have been saved for almost 16 years, and I can tell you how many times I've ever fasted, including this week, one other time. So twice in 6. From food, let me rephrase that. I have fasted from other things but food, because there's 2 things that make me who I am, food and sleep. I love both of them a lot. So I'm fasting. I'm only eating fruits and vegetables for a whole week, and all I wanted was pizza. And then Tuesday night, I made a quick phone call because part of me was going, I don't know if I really understand what I'm thinking is right. So I made a phone call, and he gave me what he thought, find out I'm completely wrong, back at square one. So I'm like, okay, this is great. So that night, I'm laying in bed, getting ready to go to sleep. So he decides that, nope, you're not sleeping tonight. I know you got to work tomorrow, but get up. And we stayed up very, very late on Tuesday and very, very late on Wednesday. He let me sleep on Thursday. Thank you. So this whole week, I've been running on no food, barely. I did eat a little bit because you don't want me hangry. And then lack of sleep. So that means, here's my emotions. All week, out of nowhere, just start bawling. Or someone will say something, I'm like, really, did you mean to say that? All over the place. So, it's been very emotional. And when she told me it was the preparing for your purpose, part of you goes, well, I don't really know what that is. You know, people say, you got to find your calling, you got to find your calling, you got to find your calling. Well, a lot of people don't even know what their calling is or how to even hear that what they're called to do. Some of us are lucky enough to just find our car keys in the morning, right? So I'm going to take you into a story in 1 Samuel 1 Samuel 3. All right. And 2. We're going to be 3:2 through 10. All right. And I don't know. Mine's different than what this says. At that time, Eli was laying down in his place. His eyes had become weak, and he could not see well. The lamp of God had not gone out yet. That one little line right there. The lamp of God had not gone out yet. Every time I've read this, and I've read this a lot this whole week, and it just kept bringing back, there's still time. Even if you don't know what it is, there's still time. Yeah. And Samuel was lying down in the house of the Lord where the special box of God was. Then the Lord called Samuel. And Samuel said, "Here I am." And he ran to Eli, said, "Here I am, for you called me." But Eli said, "I did not call you. Lay down again." So Samuel went and laid down. The Lord called again, "Samuel." So Samuel got up and went to Eli and said, "Here I am, for you called me." But Eli answered, "I did not call you, my son. Lay down again." Isn't it funny how when God calls your name, or when you think of God calling, it's this loud, boisterous, "Dawn," right? No, it's something you're familiar with, right? Now, where am I at? 6. Okay. But Eli answered, "I did not call you, my son. Lie down again." Now Samuel did not know the Lord yet, and the word of the Lord had not been made known to him. The Lord called Samuel again for the 3rd time. He got up and went to Eli and said, "Here I am, for you called me." Then Eli understood that the Lord was calling the boy. Eli said to Samuel, "Go lie down. If he calls you, say, 'Speak, Lord, for your servant is listening.'" So Samuel went and laid down in his place. Then the Lord came and stood and called as he did the other time, "Samuel, Samuel." And Samuel said, "Speak, for your servant is listening." We're gonna go back and forth from this one a lot. See, your calling is already created in you. It's in your makeup. Shout out to my friend back there. Thank you. We were born with it. God gave it to us before we were ever created. And it's all in the things that we think about, what we dream about, what we hope for, what we're good at, how we process things. It's our character. It's who we are. So somewhere inside there, what you do and what you're good at is going to be a part of what you're called to do. It's not until we really press in and establish that intimate relationship and have our foundation solid that the plan maker unveils the plans that he has for us. See, in 9, can you go back to verse 9? It says, Eli told him to go lay down, and to speak, Lord, for your servant is listening. So Samuel went and laid down in his place. In his place. When we get in our place, we will hear our calling. We will hear his voice, right? Okay. I just need him to calm my nerves down just a little bit. Woo. Okay, so a little bit about me. I gave my heart to the Lord when I was 20 years old. So 16 years ago. Okay. And at that time I was living in Omaha, Nebraska. Knew my husband, but we were just friends at that time, but I was living in Nebraska when I gave my life over to the Lord. And for as long as I can remember, I knew that he had called me to be a carrier of hope. Because I'm a dreamer. Anybody else a dreamer in here? Nobody? When you were younger, what did you want to be when you grew up? A teacher. You were a dreamer. In everything we do, we're dreamers. And I'm a dreamer. And I'm a big dreamer. From this moment, I was a huge dreamer. I could think of tons of things. I wanted to be a teacher too. But Disney World at the age of 20 ruined it for me. I did. I wanted to be a teacher. I always knew that somewhere in my life, I was going to impact children. I knew that. But I knew it wasn't going to be as a teacher because, let's face it, sometimes kids are a little spoiled. So I didn't know exactly what I wanted to do. I did know that as I was processing, I was taking Bible studies and classes, like any moment I could get in the Word, I was hungry. And I got presented by the pastor that was over at the church that I was attending about a missions trip to Africa. And I'm like, yes, right? Because one, we're going to go see little kids. I love kids, and I get a love on babies. Sign me up. I'm in, okay? Well, I get signed up. I even paid my deposit. God said, nope. Your calling right now is to be a wife and a mother. So trip got canceled. We started our little family. And then about, I guess I want to say in those first 3 years of our marriage that we lived in Omaha, I was still trying to find out who I was. And when you have 2 kids under the age of 2, you're just lucky to get through the day, right? Everything's just in motion, diaper change, bath, dinner, just get it done, right? So I was still at that place where I was trying to find who I was. We still went to the same church. I still had this really strong connection with this Pastor Ty and his wife, Terry. Terry was someone who would just call out of the blue in the perfect timing and just spark a little fire. So that whole time, I was still doing what I was called to do in that season of being a mom and running a household and being a wife. But it wasn't until God moved me to Centralia. I'm a city girl through and through. I'm a princess. I grew up in a home where I did not need anything. I was very well taken care of. My parents adored us. They encouraged us in everything we did. So being a carrier of hope, I really didn't even know what hopelessness looked like, right? So he moved us to Centralia and took me, okay? See, my husband's from here, but he took me away from everything I knew. Every person that I've ever established a relationship, my family. It was literally me, my babies, my husband. That's all I had when we moved here. I didn't know anybody. So that was my first taste of what true hopelessness felt like, because I was so lonely. And for a long time, homesickness is a real thing. And I went through it for probably 3 years. And in that 3 years, it was not pretty. There was a whole lot of stuff that me and my husband went through regarding our marriage that almost ended because I was so lonely. And because he put me in that place, he also put me in this place. He led me to Pastor Scott and Dawn, and they were the ones that counseled me and my husband. So in that process, we got back to where we should have been all this time. We'd looked for churches, never really found. We came to this church twice, and the very first time I was here, I was like, nope. And we walked out before praise and worship was even over, right? And then we tried it again. And we liked it, but we're just like, anyways, that doesn't. But it brought us back here, and he gave me a connection with 2 people who helped me through probably one of my hardest moments, I would say. And then I just started to get more involved here. I started to find my word again, starting to remember who I was, getting in that word, right? Because that's who we are. That's our the book that defines who we are. So I started getting back in, and then I started getting involved. And then next thing you know, I'm asked to step into a position here that required a lot of responsibility. Should have really thought about that a little harder. Not joking. But again, that whole carrier of hope was always pressed in on me through that whole time. I knew that children and hope were somehow a big part of who I was going to be, what I am still going to be, right? And I got connected with some people, and again, we went back into Haiti, right? To the mission trip for Africa. Still was one of those things that you kind of, when you were excited about something, there's a little bit of regret that you didn't get to do it. Well, an opportunity arose in a different country, Haiti, doing the same thing, going into the orphanages and loving on kids. So with that, I signed up, got myself prepared, and was praying, and I had a whole lot of people that stood behind me. And then right before I left for my very first trip, I got this vision. The only time ever in my entire life that I physically got a picture. And it wasn't clear, it was just, there was a little boy. That's all, I knew it was a boy, but that's all I knew. That's all I saw. And I didn't know at that time if I was just supposed to pray, like there was a situation that was going on. So I had been praying for this little boy. But then I went on my first trip, and I met a young man. Will you show that first picture? And this is Jean Mabrey, my little boy. So my very first trip, probably my very first day that we actually got to Ghana, we stopped and at the orphanage that the company that I went with, the ministry that I went with, which was called Hope Community Project, this was their orphanage. This was the one that they oversaw with a church in Ghana. So the minute I walked in, I was instantly drawn to this young man. And the funny thing is he was instantly drawn to me. And because this was the orphanage that the company that I went with we were there a lot. This orphanage is called Village de Vie. So we were at Village de Vie a lot. And this is exactly how we would be all the time. Either he was on my lap, he was on my side, or he was really into flying kites. So he would be standing right beside me flying a kite. And if he had to move with it, he grabbed my shirt. Okay? This is my boy. Like, instantly fell in love with this young man. Okay. So my first 3 trips, this little boy, every time, he knew, we had a language barrier, but he could say my name. He could even say, "Go Big Red." Just throwing that out there. I'm teaching him necessities in life. I should have done that video. I have that video. Okay. So this little boy and I have had this connection. And every trip, I would show up and I would go through those gates. He would find me instantly. And see, here's his story. He is what we like to call an economic orphan, which means he is in an orphanage but has a living parent outside of that orphanage, okay? So this young man, give me 1 second. So this young man was dropped off after I was communicating with the director of the Hope Project. And this young man was dropped off that orphanage around the same time that I got the vision of him. Okay? And I didn't know that until my third trip, that was his story. Because originally I was told he was an actual orphan. There was no living relatives. It wasn't until my third trip that I actually found out that this young man was an economic orphan. So imagine what this young man has gone through. You think you felt rejection? This mama walked away from him. And so on that third trip, which my sister attended with me on that third trip, I was crazy emotional when finding out his story, finding out the statistics of orphans in Haiti, because in the reality of it, 90% of orphans that come out of an orphanage in Haiti, they're beg, borrowing, and stealing to survive, because they don't get the skills that they need to transition into adulthood. They do go to school, but their school ends at 5th grade. So they don't have the education. And so thinking that this little boy who's carrying all of this baggage of knowing that someone didn't want him, which that might not be the case at all, because in the reality of it, Haiti is a very poor country, and that mama could have been thinking, I can't provide him with 2 meals a day. I can't pay for school. I'm doing this because I love him. But as an 8-year-old boy, you don't see that, because it's not like you can go and visit. No, mama signed over rights. This little boy now belongs to Pastor Prudence. And Pastor Prudence, he doesn't do a whole lot for anybody, okay? So, with knowing that, after that third trip, I built this passion and this excitement to the point that I was praying about packing up my 3 children and my husband and moving there. My mind was really set on, I'm moving my family to Haiti because this boy needs a mama. And I want to be that person. And it was real. And as I was planning and preparing for my 4th and final trip to Haiti, I was just so engulfed in thinking that Haiti was my purpose, that I wasn't able to see a whole lot of things. And it really wasn't God telling me to do this. It was me who was telling me to do this, because I fell in love, right? And so on my 4th trip, this is where, he started to bring me back to reality. I feel like I'm a fairly sociable person. Like, I feel like, yeah, maybe at the very beginning of meeting someone, I'm a little standoffish, but for the most part, I can make conversation with anybody and make a connection. In all trips, I had made awesome connections, to the point that we still communicate with some of the people that I went with. So this last trip that I was on, I didn't connect with anybody. I didn't have conversations with anybody. And there was 23 of us that went on this trip. And I didn't connect with a single person, except for the lady who lived there. But I had already established a relationship with her the last 4 times that, And then I come to find out, as I'm there, that Hope Community Project has stepped away from Village DeVete, because they They didn't believe in what they were doing. And they were changing their vision from orphan care to keeping families together, which is an amazing vision, and I love it. But that meant I don't get to go to Village DeVee. That means I don't get to see my little boy, right? So not only am I not connecting with anybody, my heart's breaking because I'm not going to see this little boy. So I begged, borrowed, and stealed anything I could for just a moment with him. I had people making phone calls, like anything I could do for just a moment with him on this trip. And somehow, because the relationship between Hope Community Project and Village DeVee was not good at this time, because their funding got taken away. Village DeVee's mad, right? They're not going to allow us to come. The translator, Volsi, made a phone call, and somehow God created the way for 30 minutes. So on my last trip, and it wasn't the whole group, it was me and Julie, who is, she lives over there. She's a full-time missionary for the Hope Community Project. Me and her left to go to Village DeVee, and I got 30 minutes with him. And that 30 minutes was Pastor Prudence had shown up, and he was watching everything we did. It felt like I was visiting a little boy in prison. Will you show the next picture? This right here was our very last picture together. Whew. Because through this experience of this last trip, I realized that Haiti wasn't my calling. I realized it wasn't my purpose, and that this young man was my teacher. But on the good side, Julie still lives over there, and I still get pictures of him. And you can show the last one. This is him probably 3 months ago. Isn't he so cute? He's so handsome. Okay. Whew. Now let me get back to where I was. So with this trip, I was completely devastated, heartbroken. And see, we process what God says through our thoughts. And some of those thoughts are really hard to hear. Like, you're never going to see him face to face again. Haiti's not where you're supposed to be. Those are hard things to hear, definitely for me. But he does it out of a spirit of love, grace, and purpose, right? Because, like Samuel, he ran to Eli because his passion was right. But he was running to the wrong person. And Haiti was my Eli because I was running because I thought that's where I was supposed to be. I wasn't running to God to get my answers. I was running to Haiti because that's where my heart was connected. And on that last trip, as I was leaving, we get into Miami, and now we have Wi-Fi, because Haiti, you don't have Wi-Fi, you don't have cell service, you don't have anything. So I get into Miami, I get through customs, and I go into the place in which I'm supposed to get on my next flight to get home, right? I'm texting people, letting them know I'm back in the state, I made it through, my next flight's at this time, you know, that kind of stuff. And they announce that my plane has been delayed. And not just a little delayed, like the electricity on your plane is not working, it's gonna be a while. At this point, I am so emotional because I I felt at that point that God has just taken everything away from me that I thought I was, who I thought I was. He just took it away. I was mad. So I'm sitting in this airport just sobbing to the point where it wasn't no cute, pretty cry. It was full blown, just tears. And people are walking by going, what is the matter with her? I mean, it wasn't pretty. Because I'm like, I just want to go home. Like throwing this adult tantrum. Like, get me on this plane. Get me home. And I finally, like 4 hours after we were supposed to originally take off, at this time, my husband's already in St. Louis because he didn't find out that it got delayed until I was supposed to take off. Well, it's only like an hour flight, 2-hour drive. He was already on his way. So my husband's sitting in St. Louis, and I literally cried from that moment all the way until I got into St. Louis. And I get off my plane, tears are still streaming, like I just can't turn it off, right? I walk in, towards my husband, and he's like, oh, this ain't good. You know, you could just, so he's like, what color's your bag? Like, and he just goes and gets it, and 2-hour drive home, he doesn't say a word, because at this point, there's no talking me off of what I'm going through. I'm just a hot, stinking mess. And on a rooftop in Haiti, God was revealing that this is not what I had for you. This was a place of learning and knowledge and figuring out what true hopelessness looks like. You know what it looks like now. Now, what are you going to do about it with people here? Right? And so, and he implanted in me, girl, you're going to start a summer camp. City girl, princess, I don't camp. Camping's Motel 6 for this girl. Don't do it. I don't like it. I don't like smelling like a bonfire. I don't like bugs. I don't like nature. I'm being honest, okay? I'm like, I totally didn't hear that right, but okay, we're going to start a summer camp. Great idea. So when I was in the airport, I text Scott and Dawn to tell them that I was in the States, and Scott had texted me, are you going to the Ministerial Alliance meeting tomorrow? I'm like, are you? Like, please say no, because I'm really tired and I'm emotional. And he's like, yeah, I think I am. I don't even remember what it was. He was something he wanted to talk about. I'm like, okay, I guess I'll see you there, right? So being late, I get to my house at like 3 o'clock in the morning, and I get like 4 hours of sleep, and I'm up going to a Ministerial Alliance meeting. And at that meeting, they passed out a flyer for Camp Jayota. Camp Jayota, you can have your own camp there. You just have to reserve the cabins. Okay, 4 hours of sleep. I got the confirmation, but we're not doing this right now. Mad. Like, I'm not a camper. Like, this is so out of my comfort zone, right? Well, he just continued to confirm everything that I originally thought, there is no way he's calling me to do this. There's no way, right? And so that's where New Hope for Kids was born. Started with the camp. We'll get into that a little later, but fulfilling your purpose is probably one of the hardest things you'll ever do in your life, right? Making your dreams a reality is probably one of the hardest things you'll ever do. One, because it requires you to move. It requires you to get out of your comfort zone. It requires you to be vulnerable. And we as people, We don't like to be vulnerable. It requires rejection because not everybody's going to believe in what your calling is. And let me tell you, this road has been tough. Loneliness. I've had people talk so bad about me that it would almost diminish my character. I've been rejected thousands of times. Thousands. I have fears of failing. Because then, all those people who are talking bad about me, they get to be right because I failed. I'm fear of failure. I have my own insecurities. Doubts from other people. Doubts from myself. Like, I can't do this. I'm not a camper. Like, right? But my biggest one is moving out of my comfort zone. I don't like to be the center of attention. I don't like to put myself out there for people to hear about New Hope for Kids because, you know what? I'm protective of it. Mama bear. Because I know the relationship that I have and where he's taking me in this. And I can't expect people to understand that. And so having that rejection is very hard. And almost to the place that you just want to quit. I've been through that process 1,000 times. So here's the thing. When you continue just to press in and let him be the voice, where did I see? Yesterday was a bad day because I was sticky noting everything. Where's my little sticky note? He told me this yesterday as I was walking out, or this is what I heard before I was walking out of work, so I had to grab a sticky note real quick and write it down before I forgot. He said, before you can speak for me, you have to learn to listen. And so, for the past 4 years, we're getting ready to start our 4th year of summer camp. I've been to every single one, too. So we're getting ready to go on our 4th year. And 2 years into camp, God had been pressing on me. Stop sitting and idle. Stop sitting and idle. You got to move, right? But those fears and those insecurities held me where I was, right? And so I'm going to take you real back to the 1 Samuel real fast because, let me find where I was at. So Samuel at that time was like a 12-year-old boy. So he was a young boy. And this boy, who was the link between the period of Judges and the monarchy of Israel, right? God had called him, had chosen him to do something great. But even though he was called to do something great, he didn't get it right the first time. He got called 3 times. So it's almost like God has us on speed dial. You know what I mean? Like, Megan. Nope, maybe not yet. All right, I'll catch her again. Megan, stop sitting and idle. Nope, she's not answering yet. Megan, stop sitting and idle. He doesn't give up on us. He's called you for something, and he is going to keep on you. So, like Samuel, he kept calling. Stop sitting and idle. So, not knowing where the money was going to come from, not knowing what building I'm going to get, not knowing any of this, I prayed, all right, if this is what you want, you just lead me. I'll move my feet. I'll go. I'm going to do some blind faith right now. Terrifying, but I'm going to just do some blind faith. And even though New Hope for Kids started as a camp, it really has a 3-part vision. And by moving my feet into the second part of this vision, he opened up a building. So on May 1st, because I stopped sitting and idle, New Hope for Kids will have a community outreach program here in Centralia. And I'm going to tell you this, it's the most terrifying thing I have ever been through. Because again, it's all on blind faith right now. Because I don't know the next step. I don't see what's around the corner. He didn't give me this Google map like, when you get to this stop sign, take a left. I have nothing. I'm going off of my dreams that he has implanted in me. Yeah. So be dreamers. Amen. Right? Remember, your dreams and your hopes are made in your makeup. They are who you are. So when you want to be a teacher, and maybe that's not what you dream about now, maybe now you want to be a dentist. I have nothing. But let's just, you know what I mean? Dreams change, dreams grow, but don't not listen to them. Because those dreams are thoughts that are planted inside us. And I promise you this, if you just take that first step, he will teach you everything you need to know. But you might make some mistakes. You might find yourself running to Haiti or Eli. But just remember, when you get in your place and you let him speak, he'll take you where you're supposed to go. So before, I didn't know if I was going to show this video because it's really about being a dream chaser. And I know that it doesn't really have a whole lot to do with what I was talking about, but like I said, I am a dream chaser. And I am an encourager of people to go after those hopes and dreams because it's important. It wakes you up. It gives you something to strive for. So I am going to show this video just because I think it's a good thing for those who are nervous about taking that first step. So go ahead and play that. So just to finish it up, my name is Megan, and my purpose is to instill hope through education, faith, and sparks of interest. Not only to children, but to families here inside Centralia. And that is what we intend to do with our community center, to instill hope through education, faith, and sparks of interest. And I'm going after it. I'm not letting my insecurities or my fears stop me from what God has called me to do, because I've already stopped myself long enough. So my prayer is that you guys find your dreams and chase after them with everything you have. Father, I just thank you for these ladies. I pray that my message was not jumbled because I was nervous. Lord, I hope that I executed it to your satisfaction, Lord. And again, thank you for allowing me to be your hands and feet and allowing me to be your voice today. In Jesus' name, amen. Okay, so now that the speaking's over, if you were like, gosh, I hope our 45 minutes goes fast, newsflash, I'm your host too. So you're stuck with me all day. Okay. So we get to play a game. Who wants to play a game? I need 2 people who want to come play a game. Minute to win it. I'll pick you if you don't start raising them little hands. We got 1. I need 1 more. Who's got it? Yeah. So tell me what your name is.
Beth.
And?
Shauna.
All right. So this is Minute to Win It. Do we know what Minute to Win It is? Have we heard of it? You have a minute to do what I'm going to tell you have to do. Okay? So basically, this one's called penny stackers. There's a whole bunch of pennies in this little